We are covering content topics and how to create an extensive list of content topics fast so that you never again have to worry about what you're going to create content around, what you're going to talk about. The biggest challenges that I hear from the students in my local marketing mastery and local agency accelerator programs. So this is a system that anyone can use to overcome that and really start to build out their overall content plan. You need to know who your audience is that you're actually speaking to, what products and services are most important for you to actually promote through your content, and the offers that you may want to create content to drive traffic or business to. But how are you actually going to create that, and what are the things that you need to do? So again, the content you're creating, it needs to be relevant to your offers. Otherwise, you are creating content just for the sake of creating content. We want to make sure that there is something that ties back to your offer that you want to promote, that the content will help you either segment an audience who could be interested or to really build trust around that type of offer. Maybe it's to show people that this type of offer is something that they need by overcoming their objections or answering their toughest questions. It's got to be relevant to your avatars. Those avatars are crucial for really any type of marketing effort. If you guys need to fill out your customer avatars worksheet, you also want to focus on triggering events. So this is something that not a lot of people have really ever heard of, or not many people talk about. But a triggering event is something that virtually every business is going to have. And this is some sort of event that encourages or kind of deepens the need for your audience to want your product or service. So I'm going to be using a wedding photographer example throughout our challenge day today. And so for a wedding photographer, the triggering event is someone getting engaged. So that's a really simple one to understand. Yours may be a little bit more complex or maybe harder to identify, but trust me, they exist. So for a marketing business, something that's a triggering event could be a yearly marketing strategy. So businesses are going to be developing their marketing plans for the year, usually in Q4. And so that could trigger someone to want to reach out to a marketing company. It also could be when someone buys a business. That's often when they're really thinking about how to improve or change their marketing. So I want you guys to be thinking, what are the triggering events that surround my product and service? And what types of content could I create focusing on those triggering events? So sometimes the triggering event is not necessarily meaning that they're ready today to buy what you have, but it is an indication that they will be there soon. And so the sooner that you can start to establish that relationship with the audience through your content, the more likely they're going to be to buy from you when that time comes. This is also going to help you segment by the level of awareness if you have a really solid list of content topics that are well thought out. What I mean by that is certain people, based on how interested they may be or how low in the funnel they may be in terms of buying your product and service, they're going to be interested in different topics. So one example I can give you is from the home remodeling space. A lot of you guys know I have a lot of experience in that industry. So this is something I used to see all the time. A piece of content that a business would think was a really great piece of content to promote was how to pick the right contractor for your home remodel. So that is not related at all to a triggering event. And that is only a piece of content that someone would be interested in if they already know that they're going to remodel their home and they're actually really close to being able to hire a contractor. While that is not a bad piece of content overall, it is for a very specific group of people, and it's going to be your smallest group of people in any given audience. So in any audience for any business, there are usually only about 3% of people who are ready to buy today, whatever it is that you're selling. There's also another 15 to 20% of people who need what you have to sell or maybe have an interest in it, but they're not actively seeking it out. If you are only focused on that 3%, you are not going to capture the rest of that audience very effectively. So the goal here is to have different types of content for that 3% and also for the 15 to 20%. If you can hook the audience when they are just starting to think about buying what it is you have to sell, you will be able to establish a much stronger relationship with that person, guide them in the direction through your content that you want them to go, to be able to recognize that your product, service, or specific business is the best choice for them. So the sooner you can really capture that attention, get those people into your warm audience so they can continue to see your content, the better off you're going to be when it comes to actually converting that person into a sale. So that is a very, very, very important point that I really want to reiterate today. You also want to make sure that it's building trust, building credibility, building authority. You guys will see how we're going to do that throughout this process today. Connecting with the phases of the buying cycle. So that's very similar to segmenting by awareness levels. You may have a really long buying cycle. Again, the home remodeling space can have, up to 2 years in terms of a buying cycle. People plan these out for a long time, or maybe they're thinking about it for a long time before they actually pull the trigger. For the wedding photographer example, you could have a short time frame if somebody is planning a wedding in the very near future. Some people plan their wedding 2 or 3 years in advance, so it could vary. You really need to know how long your buying cycle is, and you need to know what the phases of that buying cycle are in terms of what are the questions that people are asking at those different stages of the process. If you can identify that, those are some of your best content topics right there. Again, you also want to position your solution as necessary to helping them with whatever it is your business solves for people. So again, remember that every single business, it is a solution to a problem. If you're not viewing your business in that way, you really need to dig a little bit deeper and ask yourself, why am I in business first and foremost if I don't think I'm solving some problem? But you need to know that main core problem or core problems that your product or service does solve, because if you're not properly communicating that, whether it's through your content or your direct response advertising, you're not going to be convincing people that this is something that they need to purchase. So you also want to make sure that you can easily weave in keywords, especially for SEO or search engine optimization. We're not really going to be focusing on content for any specific platform today, because all of the topics that we're going to create, they essentially could be created for any content format, such as video, blogs, emails, social media posts. It also could be used on any platform such as Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. So let's go ahead and start talking about what this process actually looks like. So in my local marketing mastery program, we actually have a very specific, detailed video process that we go through with spreadsheets that will help you plan this out. However, this is going to be really, really helpful for you to go ahead and try and replicate this process yourself. So I am going to have to plug in my laptop. It looks like it's about to die. So give me just 1 second. And we will go ahead and dive in to these initial topics that you really need to be focused on. So the first step for any business is to identify what are the most broad core topics that I want to discuss, because every single step that we take from here, it's really going to go one level deeper. What we're looking for right now are at least 12 or around 12 core topic groups. So a few questions that you can ask yourself, or things that you can look at to determine what those core topic groups are what is the industry that you are in? Are there any subsects of your industry? So again, I'll use that home remodeling example. Home improvement or home design, home remodeling, that's the industry. Subsects of that industry could include kitchen and bath remodeling, flooring installation, tile installation. You could have people that do drywall and framing, things like that. It could be HVAC services, electrical services, plumbing services. So those are all within the same industry, but they are different subsects of that industry. That is a really easy starting point for all of you to look into. What are those different categories within your industry? You also just simply want to look at your products and your services. Typically, a product and a service, they can each be their own category. That's not always how you're going to organize this, but that is a really great way to go. If there's a lot of content or questions or things that people need to know about each specific product and service that you offer. You also want to look at the phases of that product and service. So if we look back at that wedding photographer example, the phases might be engagement. So that is phase one. Wedding planning, that could be phase two. And the wedding day, that could be phase three. You might even have honeymoon as phase four. So those are 4 different phases that all relate to the same core product and service that this person is trying to offer. You also want to make sure, again, that you have your avatars that you've created. You want to know the different groups of people that are typically buying your product and service, and you want to make sure that if there are significant differences between them, that you consider having a core category that's focused on that specific group. So again, I will go back to the wedding photographer example. You could have the bride as one of your avatars and the groom as another avatar. If we're talking about the home remodeling example, that might be interior designers who often work with contractors and remodelers. It could be the empty nester age group. It could be other contractors and subcontractors that often are going to refer business to that company. So your avatars are a really great source of these core topics. Also, what are the general interests that are related to your product and service? So on the left side, you'll see a chart where I kind of give you some examples that tells you a little bit more about what I mean from those. So a chiropractor, that general interest is going to be health and wellness. That's very broad. It's the highest level. Boutique, fashion and style, marketing, business and entrepreneurship. So products and services. Example for a marketing business like mine, it could be social media marketing, email marketing, search marketing, automation, sales, analytics, analysis. Avatars, so it could be small business owners who I work with. I also work with freelancers. I work with other marketers and agencies. Then I have some industry specific avatars, such as remodelers. I work with coaches. There's a lot of different industries and avatars that I work with. And those different groups of people often have different types of content that's going to appeal to them, even when it relates to the exact same product or service that I want to promote. Industry related. So in my business, it could be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It could be things like tech privacy or operating system changes. Could be things like hiring VAs, training. It could be continuing education, copywriting, graphic design. Those are all related to my industry, not directly to my product and service in terms of what I'm offering. Those things are a part of it. But these are all really great starting points for you to create that list of 12 core topics. So I want everyone to either open a spreadsheet or to write out this list. Go ahead and whatever your initial ideas are, I want you to write those out. Even if you're not sure if it's exactly right, just go ahead and get all of those ideas out. You'll be able to look back at this later and really use it as a starting point for your plan. Now that we have those 12 core groups, we want to take every single one of those 12 groups and we want to break that down into 3 to 4 subtopics. So if I am looking at the wedding planner example or the wedding photographer example, let's say that the process, that's one of the wedding process is one of her core groups. So that could be a core topic. There's a lot of content to cover in the wedding process. There's infinite amounts of content topic ideas. So if I'm saying that my first topic or core group of topics is going to be the wedding process, then what does a breakdown of that look like? Well, I could have honeymoon, I could have wedding day, I could have, wedding planning, I could have engagement. So I just mentioned those in those phases that we were talking about. I've already done 4 breakdowns of that first core topic. So it doesn't all have to be in terms of, the different phases or the steps. There's a lot of different ways that you can break down those core topics, and it really is going to be dependent on what you have in your list. So I am going to show you guys an example of this that's fully put together after we go through this, but you're going to understand it a lot more once we really talk about these different things. So again, you've got 12 core content topics. Each one of those 12 topics needs to be broken down into 3 to 4 or more, if you have them, different subtopics. So another type of breakdown that you could do is based on product or service types. So let's say that paid advertising or social media marketing or online marketing is one of my 12 core groups. I could say that Facebook ads, Google ads, video ads, and tech tools or follow-up campaigns or CRMs or anything that's related to paid advertising. It could be TV and radio advertising. Whatever it is, that's a breakdown of online marketing. So you're just trying to take that core topic and break it down into smaller chunks. Another way you could break these down are based on styles or options. So an example for a running store would be if running shoes is what they sell, and running shoes or shoes in general is one of their 12 core topics, they could break it down by running shoes, walking shoes, shoes for flat feet, cross-country running shoes, compression accessories. Those are all different options that still fit within shoes. Avatar related angles. Another one could be beginner versus advanced for any of these core topics. It could be those bride versus groom type of topics, or it could be something like a local business owner versus an agency owner. So these are all different ways that you can try and break down your 12 core topics. You'll have 12 topics. You'll have 3 to 4 subtopics for each of them. Now we're going to break it down one level deeper. These are going to be our actual individual content topic ideas. This is where we're actually going to find the topics of the content we'll be creating. So you're not creating content for those 12 core categories. You're not even necessarily creating content for those 3 to 4 subcategories. This is where we're really pulling those content topics from. That process of breaking these things down is really how you're going to be able to do this faster, easier, with a lot less effort. And typically you're going to be a lot more spot on when it comes to actually identifying what your audience wants to know. So these are 4 different types of breakdowns that you can do for each of your subcategories. So we already said 12 core categories, 3 to 4 subcategories that's breaking them down. We now want to have about 4 actual content topic ideas for each individual subcategory. So again, I'm going to show you guys an example of what this looks like. However, this is really where the magic happens. So things that you could consider at this level. You could teach people something. That would be how to, steps of X, Y, and Z, tips for X, Y, and Z, what to avoid, ideas for, new discoveries within. So that's teaching related content. You could also do question-based content where you're actually providing an answer to a question that people have related to your product, service, industry, whatever those 12 core content topics are. So there's a lot of great places that you can find this. I think the first is always ask your audience, ask your past customers, ask your staff who engages with your customers. What are the primary questions that people have that they want answered related to your product and service? You can also use tools like Answer the Public, BuzzSumo. You could just use Google Trends, do some searches and see what auto-populates. So answering questions before they're asked in your content is one of the most effective ways to really drive people into your business and get them to ultimately convert. If they have questions and you're the source of the answers, it's a very easy fit for them to continue to seek out more of your content and then eventually reach out to you or buy from you. You could also do comparison related topics. So it could be a versus type of thing, Facebook ads versus Instagram ads, pros and cons of Facebook ads, the difference between Facebook ads and Instagram ads. So you're comparing and contrasting different things. And those are kind of the main breakdowns versus pros and cons and differences. Then you could break it down in terms of different materials, different individual products, different styles of things, types of product offerings. Maybe there's certain groups of things that you could talk about. Maybe it's the benefits of those individual topics, products, services, whatever it is that you've got in your core 12 content topic groups. So a few questions you want to ask yourself: what does a brand new prospect, or maybe somebody who's just starting to think about my product and service, what do they need to know first? Is there really a first step of the process? If you were to get a lead that came to you and after you spoke with them, you said, oh, they weren't ready yet. What would those things be that would tell you that they weren't ready yet? Would it be that they don't know their budget, that they don't know how much things cost? Would it be that they don't understand what it takes to actually utilize this product and service? Could it be that there are other things that they have to do first before it makes sense for this? So ask yourself those questions. What does a prospect need to know first when they start thinking about buying something that I sell? How can I convince them that what I am offering is going to be a solution to their problem? What do people in your industry or in other industries, what do they shy away from in their content or just in their information that they're giving to leads and prospects that those prospects really want to know? So pricing is usually a really big one. Sometimes it's very difficult for someone to give a price up front. Sometimes there are things that may prevent you from wanting to provide that price up front. If that's the case, you can still explain how somebody would come to really value what it is that you sell. Sometimes maybe you're talking about how to formulate a budget for what it is that you sell. So even if you're not directly going to address those things, or there's some reason that you can't, you can still give people the information that will empower them to find out on their own. Is there a unique piece of information that you have that you could help them with? So I have very specific strategies for running ads. I have very specific types of campaigns. I have names for different systems and processes that I train other people on and utilize with our clients. Those are things that my audience wouldn't know about unless I told them. They're not going to know what the AB3 ad strategy is. They're not going to be seeking that out. However, it is unique information that I have to help them. So that is something that I can talk about. How can I help them decide? So is there some piece of information that makes someone a good fit for what it is you sell, or maybe makes them not a good fit? Those are great content topics. How can you reduce overwhelm? This is a really, really good one, because very many things that people are seeking out to purchase, whether it's a product or a service, there are so many different options, not just in terms of where people can buy, but the specific things that they can buy. If you can make it easy for them to identify what it is that they need, instead of presenting them every option under the sun and telling them that they can pick and choose, you're going to see a much better response, not only to your content, but to your actual products and services. When people are presented with too many options, they often do nothing. They don't make a decision. So anytime you can really reduce the overwhelm that comes with shopping for what it is that you sell, or actually utilizing what it is that you sell, or deciding if you need what it is that you sell, those topics will really draw someone to you and lead them directly to your product and service. So again, a few places that you can look for ideas for those subcategories or for the individual topics themselves. Answer the Public. So this is a great place to actually type in keywords, and it will give you the different questions that people are asking online in any given country about that keyword. Very, very interesting if you guys have never taken a look at that. You may not realize some of the questions that people have about what it is you sell. And if you're not answering them, you're leaving it to somebody else to do that. And that person may very well get their business. BuzzSumo is another. You can look at Quora, you can look at Reddit, you can ask your staff, like I mentioned. questions on social media. Just come out and ask people. You can do a poll in your stories, or you can, really have people respond to a question in your stories. You can post it on your pages and see what people say. You also can listen to your sales calls, or, those sales appointments, wherever that sale is actually taking place. Maybe you're looking at your web chat when people are reaching out because they need support before they purchase what it is you sell. Those are incredible sources of questions that people want answered before purchasing. So do not pass up the opportunity to utilize these. So now let's go ahead and take a look at what one of these content frameworks is actually going to look like. So the first thing that I do want to mention is you really want to get clear again on the problem that you're solving and what it is that you truly are helping people with. And it's not just, I help people take amazing photographs on their wedding day. So this is a wedding photography example. This is helping people capture the most significant events of their lives through photography with a signature look and unique style that has memories created for a lifetime. So that will really inspire you to potentially look at your content differently if you can summarize that core focus and goal that you have as a business in terms of helping your clientele. So for a wedding photographer, we've got wedding proposals, wedding planning, wedding day, wedding traditions, wedding venues, wedding attire, photography, and videography. So that's only one column, and that really could be two columns if we wanted it to be. Wedding websites, wedding industry, wedding reception, wedding accessories, wedding themes. So I have actually more than 12. It's fine to have more than 12, but 12 is a really good number to strive for. So now we're going to take each of these and we're going to break it down in those 3 to 4, I typically go with 4 or more subcategories. So with wedding proposals, what are the different breakdowns of wedding proposals? So first, getting engaged, maybe, ideas for popping the question to your girlfriend, engagement photos, engagement parties, engagement announcements. So those are all different parts of wedding proposals or engagement. So why you need engagement photos? When is the right time to get engaged? Do surprise wedding proposals work? What are the best gifts for engagements? So you see that getting engaged is that first one that we have. We have several different content topics that are a breakdown of getting engaged. These are typically questions. Again, we're answering questions. So how to prepare for a memorable engagement party. We've got wedding day. So our breakdown for wedding day is wedding day checklist, wedding vows, wedding ceremony, the bride, the groom, wedding items. So all about the bride on her wedding day, all about the groom on his wedding day, best advice to the bride as a wedding photographer. We've got 7 meaningful details to carry with you on your wedding day. So again, these are the individual topics we're actually pulling from. This is ultimately the list of content topics that I'm going to pull from if I am creating content. So there's a lot of different ways that you could break this down. Maybe you focus on one category per month, or maybe you pick one from each category and you do all of those in a month, or maybe you just pick and choose when you want to talk about these things. But ideally, you would be focused on getting them to align with the seasonality of your business, that promotional calendar that we talked about yesterday, to make sure that you're not talking about wedding proposals, for example, at a time of year when nobody's really getting engaged. I don't know if there is a time of year for that, but those are the things that you want to be thinking about. So you can see that there is a massive list of topics that I can now pull from. It is not that difficult to get this together when you start with your big categories, break them into your subcategories, and then break them into individual content topics. So, what is your homework for today? The first one, identifying your real purpose. Why are you in business? What is the problem that you're ultimately solving? Then you're going to identify those 12 core categories based on all the information that I gave you. You're going to take each one of them, you're going to break it down into 3 to 4 subcategories. And once you have those, you will take each subcategory and pick out 4 content topics related to that subcategory. So the subcategories are actually what you would be plugging into something like Answer the Public. This is giving you just a more refined view of those main categories, because typically if you're just trying to search for things in health and wellness, for example, there is a million different aspects to health and wellness. So this helps you just break down your own thought processes, again, avoids overwhelm by giving you a systemized approach to identifying what it is you should be talking about, what are the breakdowns of those things, and then specifically, how can you help people within those subcategories? Finally, you're going to be listing those 3 to 4 topics, pull from all of the different resources that I talked about, put them in your spreadsheet or on your list. Those will be the topics that you are creating content around. Wherever is the easiest for you to access, that is where I want you to put it. So for some people, maybe it's on their notes on their phone. It's a little bit difficult to do this breakdown if you're just doing it in notes. But again, you don't necessarily need the 12 core categories and those subcategories. You really just need your list of content topics. So wherever you might be when you're creating content, that's a really great place to keep it. If you might be creating content on the go, again, I would have it somewhere that you can easily access on your phone, because if you know what you are creating content around, the actual creation portion becomes so much easier. If you guys do want to learn more about my 12-month mentorship, I would definitely encourage you to schedule a call with me and my team. It is something that I am extremely proud of. The students in my program are growing leaps and bounds. They are absolutely taking advantage of every single resource, template, snapshot, whatever it is that I'm providing them, and they are making it happen. So if you feel like your online marketing, social media marketing, even offline marketing, we talk about it all, if it's not where you want it to be, if it's not trackable, if it's not scalable, and if you don't have systems in place on the back end of your business to actually automate this and allow you to grow without all this stress, then this is definitely something that could help you. So again, you can go to my website, alliebloydmedia.com, check out a lot of testimonials, a lot of great resources. Thank you guys. Take action. Don't just sit on the sidelines and watch. Bye-bye.